The statue you see right here commemorates the victims that fell during the Novi Sad Raid in January 1942. These were mostly Serbs and Jews. The perpetrator, the Royal Hungarian Army. This here is a story about the forgotten Novi Sad Massacre. Keep watching. Due to the Treaty of Trianon, which was signed in 1920, Hungary lost much of its territory, leaving the population and the politicians resentful. And the main aim of the Hungarian politicians during the interwar period was the redrawing of the old borders. But this was not going to be easy. Hungary was surrounded by larger states such as Czechoslovakia, Romania and the Kingdom of Yugoslavia, which formed the Little Entente, which was backed by France to keep the country in check. Now Hungary made an alliance with Germany, and when Hitler rose to power, revision of the old borders seemed possible. Now Hitler stressed that 100% revision simply was not realistic. However, when Germany was overturning the status quo in the second half of the 1930s, things seemed to be possible. And that happened during the First and Second Vienna Award, 1938-1940, where Hungary gained territory from Czechoslovakia and Romania. In November 1940, Hungary joined the Axis powers. Despite signing a treaty with Yugoslavia, the Treaty of Eternal Friendship, Germany pressed Hungary into participating in the Axis invasion of Yugoslavia. Shortly after the Germans set foot on Yugoslav soil, Croatia seceded from the Yugoslav kingdom. And this was the green light for the Hungarian invasion of the country. The Hungarian army suffered 126 dead and 241 wounded. Hungary took control and annexed two contiguous areas of Yugoslavia. A part the Hungarians occupied was the Slovene area of Prekmurje and the Croatian area of Međimurje. Hungary also gained control of Bačka and Baranja. The occupation started with violence. Orders of Goran Novak permitted the taking of hostages and executions if necessary. Public executions occurred in Zombor as well as Jabatka. Around 10,000 people were expelled to Serbia, Croatia or Montenegro. In the second half of 1941, resistance broke out. Initially small in scale, the Hungarian occupation authorities responded by executing repressive measures. When the German invasion of the USSR, codenamed Operation Barbarossa, commenced, Moscow ordered the Communist Party of Yugoslavia to pick up arms against the Axis occupiers. Hungarian police stations were raided, as well as warehouses and communication lines were cut by the Yugoslav resistance. Some Hungarian officers were brutally killed. From July 1941, the Hungarian authorities sent a special court to the area, which carried out over 100 death sentences. Thousands were put in prison. On the 5th of January 1942, the chief of the Hungarian General Staff ordered a large-scale raid against the partisans in the area. Now the thing was, the group of partisans was not big, 40, and they were all killed or captured. Colonel General József Bajnocsi wanted to seize the opportunity to get rid of all unwanted elements and thus to give the population a deterring example. Now the following day, the Germans demanded full Hungarian deployment on the Eastern Front. Now Hungarian Foreign Minister Bardossy, he did not want this, and he pointed out that the Hungarian army was needed at home to protect its own territory. It is said he asked the Hungarian Field Gendarmerie for evidence of a large-scale partisan uprising. On the 20th of January 1942, the communication lines Novi Sad were cut off by the Hungarian forces as they surrounded the city and then entered it. People were rounded up. Long lines of Jews and communists, the latter mostly Serbs, including children, were brought by trucks, ordered to strip to their underwear and then taken to a hole in the ice where they were either shot or simply pushed in, some with hands tied in their back by wire. This lasted all day until about 4 p.m. when an officer arrived and said that the long line of about 1,000 people should be taken back to the city and released because, as he told them, all the guilty people have now been executed. In the city as well as the surrounding towns, 3,340 individuals were murdered 23rd of January. Now most of them were Serbs and Jews, but not all. Breaking this figure down by nationality, this involved 2,550 Serbs, 743 Jews, 11 Hungarians, 13 Russians, 7 Germans, and 16 persons of other nationalities. Of these, 3,193 were adults and 147 were children. People were pushed in the frozen Danube, where they either froze to death or drowned. And not one functionary of the Yugoslav Communist Party was among the victims. Whole families were wiped out, so in order nobody of the families could take revenge. In other towns, people were killed as well. In Zabrze, some 653, in Temerin, around 40. In Novi Sad, the Hungarians put weapons next to the bodies and photographed them to make it look like they were armed, as Colonel Grassi stated on the 23rd of January. Even though in the course of this unwelcome raid, which also was contrary to the Hungarian character, irresponsible and rebellious elements in at least 30 to 40 cases attacked our Honveds and gendarmes with rifles and grenades, wounding many. Now, the Hungarian actions were criticized by the mayor of Novi Sad and also by the Germans. And also within the Hungarian parliament, the raid was heavily criticized. The chief of the general staff, Colonel Szabó, ordered a special investigation in April 1942, which was halted by Regent Miklos Horthy. However, he later ordered an investigation into the massacres, and as a result, charges were brought against those responsible. However, these fled to Germany and returned once Germany had taken over the country in 1944. One of them was this man. After the war, he was found guilty of war crimes and executed. The Jews of the occupied territories were subjected to forced labor by the Hungarian authorities. Over 15,000 were sent to labor camps within Hungary, and some had to perform labor tasks for the Hungarian army on the Eastern Front. Speaking of, the Hungarians suffered huge losses on the Eastern Front. This became known as the disaster on the Don. Then the Hungarian government wanted to exit the war. It made attempts to reach the Western Allies by the end of 1943. The Germans became aware of this and took control of the country in March 1944. Regent Miklos Horthy was allowed to remain as head of state. The Germans superimposed their rule over the Hungarian annexed Yugoslav areas. Now Horthy continued to contact the Allies and managed to reach an armistice with the Soviets when Soviet forces were well within the borders of Hungary. When the Germans learned about this, they overthrew Horthy and installed Ferenc Szalasi, the leader of the Hungarian Arrow Cross Party, which was the Hungarian fascist party. Little could be done to stop the Soviet onslaught, and ethnic Germans from Bachka and Baranya were evacuated to Austria in October 1944. By the end of that month, Soviet, Bulgarian and partisan forces had cleared the area of German troops. The areas of Prekmurje and Međimurje were taken by Bulgarian forces. What followed were purges, and many ethnic Germans and Hungarians fell victim to this. An estimated 55,000 were killed in these communist purges. The memorial here says, "Remembrance is a memorial harder than stone. If we are people, we must forgive, but must not forget." In June 2013, Hungarian President János Áder apologized in Belgrade for the war crimes committed against civilian Serbs and Jewish people during the Hungarian occupation of the Yugoslav territories. Before that, the Serbian parliament had condemned the 1944-45 violence against Hungarians in Vojvodina. This was a dark chapter in history, and I have a playlist where I cover these darker chapters of history. You can find that one right here. I want to thank you for watching. Best wishes from Novi Sad, Serbia.